Welcome in, One Nation, to another episode of the Hive podcast. TJ Winger today, joined by Sophie Tully. Sophie, thank you so much for taking the time to join me.
Thank you for having me.
So now we get to talk about softball. I had baseball on last week. We've been, diving into what the track and field team's doing. Now we get to talk about softball, and it's one that, as a broadcaster, I have grown to love watching and calling. It's baseball, but a lot quicker, which is awesome. But I really wanted to start by talking to you. You're now in your junior year. Mm-hmm. Let's roll the clock back a little bit. What did Lynchburg softball look like in your eyes as a recruit? That's just kind of something I always love hearing from players. Like, what did it look like then? And then what does it look like now that you're a part of it and you work with Coach Simmons day in and day out?
Yeah, well, Coach Simmons found me at a tournament when I was in high school, and I remember coming to campus and seeing how beautiful it was. And I remember my senior year, especially, after I committed, the team went all the way. They went to the Super Regional, and I remembered thinking, like, wow, this is a program to be reckoned with. And I think we still are. I think that we often, Liv, who's a senior, she often talks about going to the Super Regional and how amazing that was, and we love hearing her stories about it, and that's where we want to go back to. So I think that we always keep that in the back of our head. And I think that we're still the same program. It's just we want to get to that stage again, which is really, that's our goal.
Yeah, well, in the Super Regionals, there's only a select number of teams that get to go that. It is a small pool to pick from. So that's kind of an interesting note, and that kind of leads me into my next point I wanted to talk to you about. So Liv, senior, not playing this year. So that creates a really interesting aspect for y'all's team. No playing senior. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like this across any sport. But Coach Simmons, every time I see her, she's like, man, we got a young team. But she's excited about it. But also there's got to be a little bit of worry. I don't have an extension of me out on the field with my seniors. So that makes it that much more important for the juniors to step up in that spot. And that's you. So talk to me about what it is to be the more experienced veteran leader on a roster. But then is it kind of weird not having seniors on the roster?
Yeah, no, sometimes I still feel like a freshman. My freshman year, I actually had the COVID year, so I only got 16 games in. Sure. So I only have 1 year really of experience. But thankfully, even our sophomore class, a lot of them got in last year. They got a lot of game time. So we all kind of have a full year of experience, and we kind of tag team it a little bit in terms of leadership. We all use our voices, and I think that really helps that it's not just on one person, because we can't just say the one senior is the one everyone has to look to, which is nice. And
I got to know, how much does having Coach Hugate, Coach Lehman around help? Because they were a part of the team last year, and not playing now, but, you could think of them as the senior class of sorts, lots of experience, been around the program for a while. Do they help in that regard?
Yes, they're amazing. I loved playing with Hugate when we played together, her at short, me at first, and Michelle's the best. So it's really great to look to them because they, they're still in the grind of being a player while they still have the coach aspect. So they are the best, yeah.
So now talking about this year, let's just talk about this past weekend, because I looked at y'all's schedule and I got sick. Doubleheader Friday, doubleheader Saturday, doubleheader Sunday. That's a lot of softball to play. So one, talk to me about those tournament settings. I know it's got to be kind of a grind to get through the weekend, but at the same time, it's a weekend full of playing the sport you love. So there's got to be something enjoyable about that, right?
Yeah, no, and especially being in Myrtle Beach, it was so good to, leave Lynchburg and overlooking the ocean. It was so good. But 6 games, that's always a lot. But we were at a complex that a lot of us had actually played travel ball at. So it was a little nostalgic. It was pretty fun. So in between games, we were kind of chilling in the sun. So it made it a lot more manageable. And the opportunity to play softball together and that bonding experience of Myrtle Beach, everyone was just, ready to go, as many games as we could get.
Yeah, and baseball, softball, just about any sport, chemistry is a huge part of it. So those little getaways and where you're basically locked into a place for 6 games in 3 days, those definitely make a big difference. Let's talk about what you've been doing at the plate in specific this year. 515 average, lead the way in RBIs, triples, doubles, tie for a team best 2 home run. I could go on and on and on. Where are these numbers coming from? Or, better yet, what was your focus in the offseason to try to get numbers like this in the regular season?
Funnily enough, I'm actually taking the LSAT on Friday. So most of my off-season work was just sitting at a desk doing LSAT work. But I think a lot of it changed kind of my mindset at the plate. So, the LSAT is a lot of, analysis and being in the moment. And I'm kind of taking that to the plate and, I know I have the mechanics. I've been playing softball for 14 years, whatever. It's just a matter of, identifying the pitch, getting the timing. So kind of being more comfortable in those aspects, I think, is letting me let the physical side go and just let it ride. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's really interesting because all the time on y'all's broadcast, baseball, baseball, once the first pitch is thrown, it's chess pieces on a board moving around.
Yeah.
So especially if you're comfortable with your mechanics, like, hey, I know how to swing a bat. I know, when to engage my lower body, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, okay, well, grounded out on this, off-speed pitch last time up. Maybe 2-strike count, that's where they're going again. So it's kind of interesting to hear from a player's perspective, taking those little notes. And, you talk to, some of the best players in baseball, softball, any sport, I guess. They'll talk about those little in-game adjustments, things that seem minor to spectators, but then it's amazing. So that's kind of an interesting approach. Shout out to the LSAT coming through there in that spot and leading to this type of, offensive production because, y'all have some big bats. Caroline Joy, plenty of pop. Bree Hodges, you name it. So talk to me about that offense and what it is. You're kind of right there in the middle. You have plenty of speed on in the top of the lineup. Lots of big bats throughout the order. It's kind of fun to be a part of.
Yeah, it's crazy. I do not envy Coach Simmons making the lineup. Our lineup is so deep. You look at any of our box scores, and we have so many pinch hitters all the time. We have so much pop. I think honestly, might be a little biased. I think we're one of the most talented rosters in the ODAC, definitely. And yeah, the pop is crazy. Like Kaylee Hackett too.
Oh yeah,
it's insane. So I think it's a good problem to have, and it's really helping us in terms of run production. We have a pretty young pitching staff, so it's good to give them that comfort by scoring some runs, getting them a little buffer.
Oh, without a doubt. And I remember when I was at y'all's doubleheader against Averett, that was I looked at my lineup card and I was like, well, 1 through 9 plus whoever comes off the bench. This team could have anybody spark a run or put together a rally, put some runs on the board. That's really impressive. And then, you talk about that with, Kaylee Dorsis. That's a freshman that's, ERA just over 2. Emily Charlton, her ERA just below 2. Angela Sparendale. You guys got some good arms, but definitely makes their life a little easier if you guys are putting on, 5+ runs pretty quickly on the board. So one of the things I wanted to ask you, we've painted this picture. The offense looks great. There's talent in the pitching staff. Mayor Washington comes to town this weekend. Obviously, I know what the goal in mind is for this weekend, but overall, you talked about those super regionals. I have a feeling that's going to be your answer here, but what are some of the goals for this team this year?
Yeah, we're looking game by game. We didn't have the start we wanted to the season. We're splitting more than sweeping, which isn't something we want to do. But coming into the ODAC tilt, we want to be our best. So we have a lot of big competition. Mary Wash we split with last year, which was a little bone of contention. And we have CNU and Salisbury during spring break. So kind of getting our confidence up and being able to compete with those ranked teams. So we get into the ODAC where there are other ranked teams. In ODAC play, we really want to be doing our best. So our eyes are set on ODACs right now. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, let me take a quick detour. ODACs is obviously really important, but a lot of times I'll ask coaches, hey, you really stacked your non-conference slate with a lot of really good teams. Talk to me about that. And they'll say, okay, well, we want to see some of the best. We want to stack, coach talk. Let me get it from a player's perspective. What is it like? Hey, we get to go toe-to-toe with, a Salisbury, a Keene, whoever. Y'all have a daunting non-conference stretch. What does that mean for a player in your eyes?
Yeah, we usually do. I think that as a player, you often look at somebody's record and you go, who did they play? Who did they play?
Sure.
But we're able to say that we are playing a lot of good teams, and it does help us a lot because the ODAC is the most competitive conference in Division III. So we can't just slack off before conference and then go and... Yeah, so I think that it's really helpful as a player to be able to face some of the best pitching in the nation before you get to the ODAC pitching. So I really like that Coach Simmons stacks our schedule every year, yeah.
And plus, you're a natural competitor, so it's kind of nice to be able to be like, well, they're not that good. We took care of business against them. But awesome. Sophie, thank you so much for taking the time to join me this afternoon. It really was great. Anything you want to plug?
Shout out to the UL Philosophy Department, Philosophy Political Science major. It doesn't get much love, but
there you go.
Get a philosophy major, yeah.
There you go. And I was a history minor, so I understand some of those other departments. No comm, but totally get it. But awesome. Thank you so much again, Sophie.
Thanks.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Hive Podcast. For TJ Wingert, she's Sophie Tully. Till next week when we have a new episode for you, we are signing off.